California is considering restricting the travel of classic cars. That's according to a report by the Daily Caller.
Life in California in the 1970s revolved around cars as much as streets and neighborhoods. Vehicles were symbols of identity, freedom, and social connection. But enthusiasts also faced practical, legal, and environmental challenges. People who experienced this era remember both the thrill of speed and style and the evolving rules and trends that defined a distinctive automotive culture in the Golden State. In this video, we'll unpack what it actually meant to be part of California's car culture in the 1970s. Muscle on the streets. The 1970s in California were defined by the roar of muscle cars, vehicles engineered for power, speed, and presence. Models like the Ford Mustang, Chevrolet Camaro, Pontiac GTO, and Dodge Challenger became symbols of freedom and rebellion, particularly among younger drivers. Muscle cars were more than transportation. They conveyed identity, status, and skill behind the wheel. Automotive magazines, dealership ads, and pop culture celebrated horsepower and acceleration as central to the American lifestyle. Ownership of these vehicles required access to disposable income, knowledge of engines, and a willingness to maintain high-performance machines. Teenagers and young adults often pooled resources to acquire or modify these cars, sometimes creating a subculture centered on experimentation and competition. Socially, muscle cars shaped peer interactions, from showing off in parking lots to informal racing on open roads. Despite their appeal, these cars posed challenges: high fuel consumption, maintenance demands, and safety concerns in a rapidly growing urban landscape. Law enforcement noted spikes in traffic violations tied to speed and street racing, prompting debates about regulation. Yet the cultural impact endured. Muscle cars became icons of a particular California era, a moment when automotive engineering met youth identity, freedom, and the pursuit of style on wheels. Drag strips and street racing and drag racing were central to California's 1970s car culture. Drag strips, sanctioned tracks for straight-line acceleration contests, offered a controlled environment for testing engines and driver skill, while illegal street racing thrived on public roads and parking lots. Newspapers and police records from the period report frequent confrontations, accidents, and community concern over both safety and noise. Participants saw racing as a rite of passage, a way to demonstrate technical knowledge and mastery of a vehicle. Local car clubs often organized informal competitions, sometimes turning neighborhoods into arenas for speed challenges. Enthusiasts modified engines, adjusted suspensions, and tuned carburetors to maximize performance. The culture combined mechanical expertise, competitive spirit, and social networking, creating communities bound by shared passion. Authorities struggled to balance enforcement with the popularity of the activity. Drag strips offered a legal alternative, but the allure of illegal racing, the thrill, the social prestige, and the convenience of urban streets remained strong. By the end of the decade, racing culture had influenced automotive design, aftermarket modifications, and popular perceptions of speed, cementing its place in California's automotive identity. If you love classic cars, muscle cars, or street racing history, then like and subscribe to keep up with more automotive stories. Surf and the station wagon. California's car culture in the 1970s was inseparable from the beach lifestyle. Surfing, sun, and sand required transportation capable of carrying boards, gear, and passengers, often simultaneously. Station wagons, woodies, and vans became iconic vehicles of choice, blending practicality with style. Families and teenagers alike used these cars as mobile hubs for beach trips, reinforcing the association between automobiles and leisure. Car design in this context reflected lifestyle needs. Roof racks, bench seating, and robust suspension for sandy terrain were common modifications. Photographs and advertisements from the era highlight groups of surfers unloading boards at dawn, cars lined up along the coast, and music pumping from open windows. These vehicles were cultural symbols as much as functional tools, representing freedom, social mobility, and the California dream. Surf culture influenced broader automotive trends, inspiring customization and the marketing of vans and wagons as symbols of recreation. Beyond transportation, cars facilitated social interaction. Meeting spots, informal gatherings, and mobile parties became part of the beach routine. For many, the vehicle itself became a central character in the surf narrative, linking identity, sport, and regional lifestyle. Hot rods and custom rides. Customization defined a significant segment of 1970s California car culture. Hot rods, classic cars modified for performance and aesthetics, allowed owners to express individuality through paint, engine tuning, suspension, and interior design. Garages, workshops, and car clubs functioned as both creative spaces and social hubs where enthusiasts shared knowledge, tools, and techniques. Magazines and DIY manuals of the period emphasized ingenuity. Swapping engines, upgrading carburetors, lowering suspensions, and adding chrome accents were common practices. Customization also served as status signaling. A visually striking vehicle demonstrated skill, taste, and commitment to the car community. Neighborhoods and car shows became showcases for these efforts, with peer recognition often as important as performance metrics. Economic and social factors influenced the practice. Access to parts and mechanical knowledge was critical, creating barriers for some while fostering mentorship networks for others. For many teens and young adults, customizing a vehicle offered a pathway to independence, a tangible accomplishment, and a way to participate in a culture defined by innovation, speed, and style. Hot rods, in essence, turned cars into personal statements and moving works of art. Cruising life cruising, slowly driving along main streets, boardwalks, or commercial strips, was a defining social activity in 1970s California car culture. Teenagers and young adults used cruising as a way to see and be seen, socialize with peers, and showcase their vehicles. Cars became extensions of personality. Paint jobs, rims, and engine modifications were on display, while music blaring from radios reinforced identity and mood. Drive-ins, diners, and local hangouts often served as unofficial cruising destinations. Police occasionally patrolled these areas to curb excessive noise, reckless driving, or traffic congestion, yet enforcement varied by neighborhood and city. Oral histories highlight the thrill and subtle status competitions embedded in cruising culture. Who could drive the longest, park the most prominently, or attract attention for the most unique car? Car clubs organized more structured events, often bridging the gap between legal competitions and casual street cruising. These gatherings reinforced community, mentorship, and shared passion for vehicles. Cruising combined socialization, style, and competition. It was as much about community and identity as speed, reflecting the ways California youth shaped public spaces and demonstrating how cars were woven into everyday social life rather than merely functioning as transportation. Where are you tuning in from? Share your favorite vintage car or cruising memory in the comments below. Driven by pop culture, California's 1970s car culture was inseparable from media, film, and print. Movies such as American Graffiti and TV shows like Starsky and Hutch glamorized speed, street life, and rebellion, influencing teenage perceptions of cool, risk, and identity. Magazines like Hot Rod and CarCraft offered technical advice, styling tips, and visual inspiration, creating aspirational models for enthusiasts. Automotive advertising reinforced these ideals. Dealerships emphasized performance, customization, and freedom, often linking cars to youth, adventure, and status. Teenagers internalized these cues, shaping buying decisions and personalization choices. Media exposure also created regional and national networks of shared culture, connecting Southern California's hot rod scene to broader trends across the U.S. Critics at the time worried about glamorizing reckless driving, but enthusiasts argue that media and pop culture provided language, aesthetics, and legitimacy for a hobby that blended mechanics, style, and social networking. Films and publications documented innovation, creativity, and competition while inspiring new generations to build, race, and display vehicles. Pop culture, in short, validated and amplified car culture, transforming individual vehicles into cultural symbols that carried identity, aspiration, and community recognition beyond their mechanical function. Rules and consequences. By the 1970s, California car culture was also shaped by early environmental and legal pressures. Rising awareness of emissions, the introduction of catalytic converters, and new fuel efficiency standards began to influence automotive design. Gasoline shortages in the early 1970s forced drivers to consider mileage and consumption, in a way that hadn't been necessary during the muscle car boom. At the same time, safety and traffic regulations grew stricter. Seatbelt laws, speed limits, and city ordinances targeting illegal street racing were increasingly enforced, creating tension between enthusiasts and authorities. Police reports, court records, and local news highlight crackdowns on cruising, drag racing, and reckless driving, while car clubs negotiated compliance to maintain legitimacy. These regulatory shifts altered both the types of vehicles that were popular and the ways they were used. Muscle cars, heavy hot rods, and highly customized vehicles faced practical and legal limits, while smaller, more fuel-efficient models gained attention. Enthusiasts adapted creatively, modifying engines and aesthetics within legal bounds. California's 1970s car culture, therefore, existed at the intersection of passion, regulation, and environmental consciousness, a dynamic space where identity, creativity, and law constantly negotiated boundaries. The cars, streets, and social rituals of 1970s California defined an era of freedom, creativity, and community. From muscle cars and drag strips to cruising, customization, and pop culture influence, the decade shaped automotive identity in ways that endure today. Stay tuned. The story of 1970s California car culture continues to drive the passion, style, and innovation of enthusiasts now.